Yeah, we put the kids on the screen. So, we've been talking this month. January is the month that historically Circle's Edge, Centers for Spiritual Living, and Centers for Spiritual Living talk about the roots of our philosophy, the very basis of our philosophy. And so today, what I want to talk about is changing your thinking, changing your mind. Ernest Holmes, who is our founder, correlated a whole philosophy drawn from every major religion. And one of the most fundamental basic beliefs and philosophies of his teaching was that thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And so, when you can change your thoughts, then you will change your life. So the little phrase that we use in this teaching is, change your thinking, change your life. Now, I've told this story before, but I believe it's worth repeating because I felt myself to be such a victim in this world. And so guess what? I created a lot of victimhood. And then it happened that I had a teacher, a professor of philosophy, who took a group of us into Denver. I lived in Pueblo, Colorado. We went to Denver to Mile High Church to a thing called Dimensions of the Mind. And at this Dimensions of the Mind, there were speakers that were, at that time, amazing New Thought people. Fritjof Capra, Marilyn Ferguson, I think maybe Larry Dossey was there introducing his newest book. There was just a gaggle of New Thought folks teaching the philosophy. And after the talks and during a break, the religious science or the Mile High Library had books for sale. And I was looking at them, and some man handed me a book. Now, I don't know why that makes me cry. Okay, why not laugh? Handed me a book and gave it to me. And it was what I perceived for the longest time called Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. But the truth of the matter is the name of the book was Change Your Life. Subtitle, Change Your Thinking. So I went home from that workshop day of intense New Thought ideas, and I was so zenned out. My kids said to me, Mom, what's the matter with you? Dad, what's wrong with Mom? These poor children had never, ever seen me peaceful or relaxed. That's not good. That is not good. But I read this book, and it did change my life. And it's hard sometimes for people who know me now to believe that I was really addicted to adrenaline. I feel like I changed that. Now I just cry. So I want to share a writing by Ernest Holmes, which appeared in the Creative Mind book, that sort of directs us in our conversation. He says, and I quote, "We have within us a power that is greater than anything that we shall ever contact in the outer world. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our life and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. That power is God's creative power, God's creative life. We have as much of this power to use in our daily life as we can believe and embody. So, change your thinking, change your life. Some of you may have remembered Marilyn Ferguson, who popularized the term or the quote about a paradigm shift. And it got to be really quite a cliche. However, I think it's really important for us to remember that things are not always the way we believe they are. They are what we have thought them and created them, but that's not necessarily the truth. So, if I talk about some thought processes that I believe are erroneous or that we can change our point of view. And so here's an example of one. This may be something that you believe. If I want it done right, I got to do it myself. Oh, yeah. So, first off, let's take a look at what right is. It's only what I believe to be right. That's not necessarily the right of all of it. And other people may have some really good ways of doing things. And if I persist in my belief that if I want it done right, then I'm going to end up doing it all. And then I'm going to be exhausted. And then I'm going to be a victim. And yada, 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 yada. Right? The other erroneous thought, I think, is related to money. Times are tough. Jobs are hard to find. And if I want to get anything in life, I've got to work for it. Sound familiar? Got to work. Well, God is our source. And the minister that I had in Albuquerque, Patrick Pollard, used to tell this story, and I'm going to share it with you. He had a friend who wanted to live like a millionaire. And of course, he said that a lot to people, and they sort of poo-pooed him and said, oh, yeah, how are you going to make that happen? You're going to win the lottery. Your chances of winning the lottery are very small. But this is how it unfolded. He wanted to live like a millionaire. So it happened that he stumbled upon a job, work, to care for a millionaire's estate while the millionaire was traveling. He got the millionaire's cars, high executive, glorious, beautiful cars. He got the credit card to live. He was instructed to feel free to use and wear all of the millionaire's clothes. He was able to entertain on the millionaire's credit cards. So, he was able to live like a millionaire. Now, so when we say, oh, I gotta work. I gotta earn this money. Or where's the money coming from? The truth of the matter is, God is our source. And all we have to do is speak it into the universe and know that it is flowing to us. So when we change our thinking, we change our lives. And we can all be millionaires without question. We can live like millionaires, and we can also be millionaires. How many of you have gotten this wonderful idea and then didn't act on it? And then down the road, here somebody else acted on this wonderful idea and made millions. Yeah, we've all had that experience, right? I thought of that. That was my idea. Absolutely. So, in his book, Reginald Armour, who wrote That's Ernest, who titled his one whole chapter of Why, our founder, Ernest Holmes, was a man who asked, why? But I'd like for us to take a look at the tandem phrase that we use in this thought process, and it is, if you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you got. Mm-hmm. So now the question is, if you look at your life and things are not going well for you, allowing yourself to take a look at what you're doing to create it. I think this is an especially important belief system when we talk about social change. Keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you got. And Ernest Holmes, then, was asking why? And to me, the question of why is not a productive question. If you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you got. The question is, what am I doing? What are we doing as a society? What are we doing as a culture that is creating those things that we do not want in our life? These are questions that we need to take a look at for our social issues. Not, why are young men taking guns and slaughtering people? That's not a productive question. But the question is, what are they missing in their lives? What can we provide to our youth that will allow them to be filled with understanding and compassion, that will create more harmony in the world? Those are the kinds of questions that we need to take a look at. If we keep doing what we're doing, we'll keep getting what we got. If we keep using the criminal justice system in a way that is blaming and shaming, we're going to end up with more blame and shame. That's a social issue, I believe, that religious science can speak to. This morning on Got Spirit or whatever Oprah's
Soul Sunday.
Thank you. Super Soul Sunday. Karen Armstrong was on there. And she was talking about just this very thing. That as we dehumanize people, as we look for the differences in our lives, what happens? Those differences absolutely show up. But if we change our conversation, if we change our question, if we ask ourselves and ask our society, but we've got to start with ourselves, ask the question, how can I be a beneficial presence? How can I be a beneficial presence? And whatever the topic of discussion might be. How can I provide what's missing? How can I provide what's missing? How can I be a beneficial presence? And when we change our thinking and take a things, shift the paradigm around, if you will, then we come up with different answers. Maybe we come up with solutions. But because our thoughts are creative, it's not up to us necessarily. When we ask the question, when we change our mind, when we get clear about the outcome that we want, then the universe, the divine, the law, steps in and moves us forward. We can change our thinking, and we can change our life, because our thoughts are things. They're creative. So I want to just close with this final quote from Ernest Holmes in Creative Mind. Listen to our children. Isn't that wonderful? It just fills me with joy. Okay, so, quoting Ernest Holmes, the best way to arrive at the highest consciousness is to have great faith in the willingness and the ability of life to do all for us by working through us. We must believe in the inherent goodness and all-powerfulness of the Spirit of Truth. Through the door of our own thoughts, we enter into the universal consciousness, into a complete realization of life and truth, of love and beauty. And as we sit in the silence of our own souls and listen, it will be the greatest thing we ever do. There in the silence, we realize that we are one with cause. I'd like to read that again so that we can all sort of take it in and own it, hear it in a deeper way. The best way to arrive at the highest consciousness is to have a great faith in the willingness and the ability of life to do all for us by working through us. We must believe in the inherent goodness and all-powerfulness of the Spirit of Truth. Through the door of our own thoughts, we enter into the universal consciousness, into a complete realization of life and truth, of love and beauty. And as we sit in the silence of our own souls and listen, it will be the greatest thing we ever do. There in the silence, we realize that we are one with cause. So, it is done unto us as we believe. It is done unto us as we believe. And we can change our thinking to change our lives. I love you all. Namaste. So I would invite two practitioners present. The others are in Tahoe, lending their energy, the center in Tahoe. So I would invite you to join with me as we turn within. To the place that we foster and nurture the truth of our being, our divinity. The place that we meet the divine creative source. And in that place, trusting and knowing that our thoughts are creative. In this moment of peace and harmony, we are creating peace and harmony in our lives and we touch in ways that we can never imagine. The one that is expressed so uniquely and powerfully through all humankind. As I rest in peace and harmony, I allow that glorious sense of the unity of all humankind to fill my being. I know that there is only God. And the way that God shows up in my life is the way that I believe that God shows up in my life. I can accept a thimbleful of goodness. I can accept a spoonful of goodness. I can accept a cup, a bucket, or an ocean of goodness into my life. It's totally up to me. And so at this moment, I call good and only good into each of our lives. I call abundance and joy, loving relationships, peace, harmony, only good into each of our lives. And because I am one with all that is, I claim and declare that goodness of perfection, love, harmony is moving through and within all of humankind. If I believe this to be the truth, then it is the truth. So at this moment, I'll remove all barricades, all false beliefs, all disclaimers otherwise. I believe in peace. I believe in harmony. I believe that it is done right this moment. And if you'd like to own that with me, I invite you to claim it by saying with me, and so it is. So we'll have another song.